Thank you, His Highness. And we are all happy and proud about the space activities in Saudi Arabia that will have also impact in the region and make inspiration as well. Now I would like to ask Frank Rose, Deputy Assistant Secretary, U.S. Department of State, to deliver his address. Please.
Great, thanks. Good morning. His Highness, Dr. Turki, Excellencies, and distinguished speakers and guests, thank you for your kind introduction. It is a pleasure to be at the Global Space and Satellite Forum here in Abu Dhabi. Fora such as this are key to creating opportunities and addressing challenges within the global space sector, bringing together industry, government, and non-governmental sector is essential to ensuring space remains a key driver of science, innovation, and economic growth worldwide. Today, I'd like to focus on 3 areas in my talk. First, I'd like to discuss the importance of space capabilities in today's world. Second, I'd like to discuss the challenges created by an increasingly congested and contested space environment. And third, I'd like to discuss opportunities for international cooperation to respond effectively to these challenges. Over 5.5 decades, nations around the globe have derived increasing benefits from outer space. In addition to contributing to economic growth and innovation, space capabilities contribute to increased transparency and security among nations. Space assets also save lives. Our ever-increasing monitoring and warning capabilities provide critical, timely information to first responders during natural disasters, leading to faster and more efficient recovery efforts. For populations in remote areas, satellites are often necessary to provide critical services such as telemedicine and communication. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, the U.S. commercial space transportation industry was directly related to the growth of industries such as satellite manufacturing, satellite television, consumer electronics with satellite services, and remote sensing, just to name a few. Spin-off technologies from artificial hearts to the insulation for our homes came from space technologies developed by NASA and other space agencies. To give you a concrete example with a dollar sign attached, the direct economic contributions of the Global Positioning System, or GPS, technology on commercial GPS users are estimated at over $67.6 billion per year in the United States alone. The U.S. government itself is the biggest single user of GPS and has invested at least $43 billion in GPS infrastructure, equipment, and services. With this in mind, it is no surprise that the UAE is investing heavily to grow its space sector. Bottom line, not only are space capabilities foundational to our global economy, security, and way of life, they also facilitate technological innovation and create brand new industries. Today, there are approximately 60 nations and government consortia that operate and own satellites, in addition to numerous commercial and academic operators. The UAE, as many of you know, recently joined the ranks of spacefaring nations with the launch of its first government satellite, the Dubai Sat #1. The launch of this satellite is an important step forward for UAE's impressive efforts to further scientific discovery, technological innovation, and space development, both here in the Gulf and beyond. And it's only the beginning. As it is the habit here in the UAE, sights are set very high. I'm very excited to see that Abu Dhabi is partnering with Virgin Galactic to establish a regional hub here in the Gulf for Virgin Galactic's tourism and scientific activities. This facility will add to Virgin Galactic's impressive facilities in the southwestern United States. Only a decade ago, it would have been hard to believe that a country could go from launching its first government satellite to being on the forefront of commercial human space travel in just a few years. Yet, with all of these exciting new developments comes new challenges. Increasing use of space by all, coupled with debris from past launches, space operations, orbital accidents, and testing of destructive anti-satellite weapons that create long-lived space debris, has resulted in increased orbital congestion, complicating space operations for all. For example, the U.S. Department of Defense currently tracks roughly 22,000 objects in orbit, of which 1,100 are active satellites. There are also hundreds of thousands of additional objects too small to track, but are still capable of damaging satellites in orbit in the International Space Station. On top of this, radio frequency spectrum congestion is increasing. As more transponders enter service, the demand for bandwidth rises, increasing the possibility of interference while also straining the international processes to minimize interference. Space is also increasingly contested. Space systems and their supporting infrastructure face an expanding array of natural and man-made threats that may degrade, disrupt, or destroy assets. This has implications beyond the space environment, disrupting essential worldwide services such as weather forecasting and financial services upon which we all depend. While the potential for future growth in the space domain is vast, we must also recognize that the challenges we face and work together to ensure the long-term sustainability and security of the space environment. These are serious challenges that no one country can solve on its own and can only be effectively addressed through international cooperation. In response to these challenges, the United States updated its national space policy, which President Obama signed in June 2010. A key element of the 2010 U.S. national space policy was its increased emphasis on international cooperation as a way to deal with the 21st century challenges to the space environment. As directed by the National Space Policy, the United States has expanded its efforts to share space situational awareness services, including notifications to governments and commercial satellite operators of close approaches that might result in collisions, which is an increasing problem. For example, the 2009 collision between a defunct Russian Cosmos satellite and a commercially operated Iridium satellite created thousands of pieces of debris that threaten the space systems of all nations. To date, the United States Strategic Command has concluded 37 space situational awareness agreements with commercial satellite owners and operators that will allow us to improve our cooperation in this area and help prevent future collisions in outer space. We are also working with the international community to develop transparency and confidence building measures, or TCBMs, in outer space. The United States believes that TCBMs can increase trust and prevent misperceptions and miscalculations between nations. This can be achieved through transparency, openness, and predictability through, for example, information sharing. In January 2012, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton announced the U.S. decision to work with the European Union and other spacefaring nations to develop an international code of conduct for outer space activities. Clinton stated, and I quote, "The long-term sustainability of the space environment is at risk from space debris and irresponsible actors. Unless the international community addresses these challenges, the environment around our planet will become increasingly hazardous to human spaceflight and satellite systems, which would create damaging consequences for all of us." End quote. The United States believes that an international code of conduct, if adopted, would establish guidelines for responsible behavior to reduce the hazards of debris-generating events and increase the transparency of operations in space to avoid the dangers of collisions. On May 16th and 17th of this month in Kiev, Ukraine, the European Union will hold its first open-ended consultation to discuss the International Code of Conduct. The United States plans to participate in this meeting, and we encourage all nations to participate as well. In addition to the Code of Conduct, the United States is also involved in a study by the UN Group of Government Experts on Outer Space Transparency and Confidence Building Measures, which I am privileged to serve as the United States expert. Under the capable chairmanship of our distinguished colleague, Mr. Viktor Vassiliev of the Russian Federation, the GGE offers an opportunity to advance a range of voluntary transparency and confidence building measures that might mitigate dangers and risks to space security. The GGE intends to develop a consensus report for the United Nations Secretary General that outlines a list of voluntary and pragmatic space TCBMs that states could adopt on a unilateral, bilateral, or multilateral basis. Notably, the GGE has welcomed written contributions from intergovernmental bodies, industry in the private sector, civil society, and other UN member states not already represented on the GGE. We believe that this GGE serves as a real opportunity to move forward pragmatic steps to strengthen stability in the outer space environment. The United States is also taking an active role in the working group on the long-term sustainability of outer space activities, and this is a long title, under the auspices of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee of the UN Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, aimed at developing best practices for enhancing safety and sustainability of space activities. We believe these guidelines could complement other TCBM efforts aimed at enhancing the stability and security of the outer space environment. Moreover, insights gained from this bottom-up approach may be helpful to emerging spacefaring nations as they develop their space and commercial policies and programs. We would encourage your governments to play an active role in this working group. Lastly, the United States is increasing its assurance and reliance of mission-essential functions against disruption, degradation, and destruction. This includes expanded cooperation with the private sector, allies, and partners around the globe to maintain the continuity of space service. Let me conclude by saying that every day, billions of people go through their day without realizing just how reliant they are on outer space. Encouraging responsible behavior in space through pragmatic, near-term transparency and confidence building measures offers one way to protect the space environment for all nations and future generations. I'd also like to note that how encouraged I am to see such a wide variety of actors and issues on the agenda today. It is only through cooperation and communication that we can achieve what is in the interest of all of us here today, strengthening the long-term sustainability, stability, safety, and the security of the space environment. This conference is a testament to the excellence and forward-looking nature of the UAE space and satellite industry. From the United States government's perspective, we look forward to continuing our partnership with the UAE on space and other issues. Thank you very much.